Welcome to Hands in the Sky podcast. I am your host, Rizzy Shy, and you have made it to the hits, Hands in the Sky podcast. This is our first official episode. I'm not going to keep you long, but I'm going to keep you. The first episode is something that I want to talk about that I think we all go through, or something that we all should go through or will go through at some point in life, and that's a reset. So let's talk about today. Let's talk about what a reset is. Let's talk about why is a reset needed? When is a reset needed? Who needs a reset? Okay. And the reason this is dear to me because I'm going through a reset right now. And as we get deeper into the podcast, I'll let you guys kind of know what's going on and everything it'll come together. So let's first of all let's just define what a reset is. In my opinion, a reset is taking what you already have and making it better. Or basically, you say you have a house and you need to remodel the house. You need to upgrade the bathroom, you need to upgrade the kitchen. It's not a build up or tear down, sort of say. It's taking what you've already established and just adding on to it, making it better. So, in my opinion, that's what a reset is. So, a reset is something that needs to be fixed, updated, remodeled, kind of like a computer. Everything is we're in the digital age now, and the computer age, and every now and again you got to do an update on your Microsoft Word or whatever, and that's kind of like a reset because you got the old version, they just updated to the new version. Okay, so that's kind of what a reset is for me. And so you're taking what you already have and you just adding on to it. And there's reasons for that. And I think the five virtues of a reset are physical, financial, emotional, spiritual, and mental. And then there's one that a lot of people probably should throw in is that maybe a social media reset. I'm not a big social media guy, but I do have a circle of friends that are into social media, and a lot of the times they say, "Hey, I'm going, I'm going rogue. I'm going off social media." They have to do a social media reset because it gets too much. Everything becomes overwhelming, and so that's kind of what a reset. I guess that takes me to my next question: why is a reset needed? A lot of times a reset is needed because things becomes overwhelming. Physically, things could become overwhelming if you're sick or you're not feeling good or you have a illness or something like that. You may need a reset. So um, as we get closer to the end of the year, everybody's making resolutions, and one of the biggest resolutions everybody does is to what? Go to the gym. Start off the year on the health kick, right? So they start off the year on the health kick and then they stop, okay, for whatever reason. So that can be a reason for a reset. You stop going to the gym, now you need to go back because everybody needs to do a little bit of physical activity. Okay. You can also have a financial reset. What does a financial reset looks like? You know, everybody credit card debt. Maybe you lose your job. You need to look for another job. You got some unexpected bills that come up, whether they be medical bills or unexpected expenses. Say like maybe your car went on the blink or something like that, or just out of the blue, the IRS pops up and say you owe them some money. You know, you need a reset. So sometimes you need a financial reset. So you need to do a budget and make sure that you're hitting all your avenues and things that makes you better financially. So, and I do a financial reset a lot. Um, Even though I don't have a lot going on financially, I do a financial reset a lot because A lot of times, if you don't reset financially, then you have to wind up resetting mentally and physically. So a lot of times, if your financial is okay, that'll keep the mental and the physical together. And then we can go to emotional. An emotional reset is important too. Um, Nobody wants to die alone. At least nobody that I know. A lot of people are in relationships, whether they're in relationship with their significant other, whether that be their wife or their boyfriend or their girlfriend or whatever. Um, Say you break up, you guys decide to part ways, and you figure life is better without being together. That can cause an emotional reset. An emotional reset is a type of reset that can actually prolong. You don't know how long an emotional reset is going to take. It can take a long time to get over an emotional reset. So what can you do to reset yourself emotionally? If you're just getting out of a relationship, maybe not get back into one as quick as you did. Maybe just kind of just not date for a little while. Get into yourself for a little while. Get into some spiritual things. But you will at some point in life, as long as you keep living, you will have to do an emotional reset. And like I said, a lot of times the emotional resets are the longest. They take the longest to actually come out of, because you just never know when you're gonna do it. You know. So, but we'll definitely come back to the emotional reset, because there's a lot more there. And then you can do a spiritual reset. A lot of people say, well, Rizzy, what's a spiritual reset? A spiritual reset is simple to me. What do you deem spiritual? You know, are you a religious person? Do you like to go to church? Do you pray? Um, do you believe in a higher power? And sometimes when you're going through a crisis, that's when the reset comes. Say you get sick, you lose your job, you're going through a divorce, um, something in your life is just off. And sometimes you go back and you start praying again. You stop, as we all have, and you start praying again. That's a spiritual reset. You start reading the Bible. You start looking at sermons, and you start listening maybe to gospel music and church music and things of that nature. That's what a spiritual reset is. It resets you spiritually to kind of make you feel better spiritually. That's probably one of the least resets that I have done to date. But that's probably at the top of my list right now, to do a spiritual reset, so I won't have to keep doing it. Because you have to understand, when you do a reset, you give up something, because it's not a start all over, but it's a stoppage. And anytime you have a stoppage and a reset, you lose your momentum, and if you got good momentum, why would you want to stop it? So you always have to tell yourself, if I have to keep resetting, am I ever going to just make it to my goals? Yeah, you can. It's just going to take a longer time, and it's going to take more effort. So you don't want to have to keep stopping and resetting. So a lot of things that you're doing to get you through day to day, physically, financially, emotionally, and spiritually, you have to do those things every day. Those are things, if you're not doing them every day, you should be doing them every week. Often enough, you know what's going on. And then the fifth one is probably one of the ones that you probably hear more in the on social media and the news. That's the mental reset. Mental health is serious. I have never really been a guy that was like into mental health. Um, as of right now, I am seeing a counselor um, and a therapist. And so I'm kind of just learning how that space works and how to talk and get guidance and understand that you don't know everything, even though you think you know everything, but you really don't. So the mental reset for me has been the hardest, because I never really had to mental reset. I never knew what a mental reset was. I never knew what it looked like. I never knew what um, why you should do it. And so for me, the mental reset has probably been the hardest one to do, and it really should be the easiest one to do. But that's not what's happening. Um, so for me, a mental reset is not so much changing the way you think, but changing the way of why you think. Depression is real. You know, they have a lot of people out here that depressed for whatever reason, and nobody wants to be depressed. And there's a lot of ways to not be depressed. So um, you always have hope when it comes to your mental. There's always somebody you could talk to. They got thousands of services that can offer help. They got hotlines that you can call and talk to people and stuff like that. So there's always somebody you can talk to. And if you don't want to talk to somebody that you do know, you could talk to somebody that you really don't know. So, you should always have a friend or somebody, a confidant that you can go to. And it's not so much that you can just drag all your problems on them, but sometimes you just need to get stuff off your chest. And that's what a mental reset comes in at. Sometimes you just need to just talk about it. Just talk about it. I'm not really coming up with a solution to the problem. I'm not really so much talking about the problem itself and why I have a problem. I'm just kind of just talking through the problem. Maybe trying to figure out what can I do to reset myself mentally. And for me, the biggest thing for me with the mental reset is, why am I doing a mental reset? What's going on with me mentally that I have to reset? And right now, I figured out that I'm doing a mental reset because I never, out of all the virtue that I've talked about so far, mental was one of the least things I ever worked on. I would never thought I would be a guy that would be in counseling for anything, because I never thought like that. But I guess as you get older, things change, your situation change, and as you see more of the world and how the world works, a mental reset is needed, and it's often needed more probably than any other of the reset that you're going to do. And then we come to the sixth one, which is a social media reset, and I think that just go without saying. A social media reset is what it is, a social media reset. There's a lot of things on social media that are true, that are false, that are fake, that a lot of people faking it to make it, or whatever it is. And I guess sometimes you just need to just get off social media and just handle your business, because social media is very addictive. It's very time consuming, and you can spend a lot of time on social media doing nothing but just looking at what other people doing. you know. And trust me, even though, like I said, I'm not a big social media guy, what you looking at, it, people not really living like that. You got to know it. That just for the gram. You know what I'm saying? Every picture is just, it's the perfect picture. And I'm not like a social media hater or anything like that. I'm definitely a social media advocate, because I do think there are some good things that social media can bring. And but I do think that some people need to do a social media reset, especially some of the younger people too. You know, because a lot of times a lot of teenagers and young folks, as I'm dating myself by saying young folks, um, they get on social media and they get bullied. I hate to even bring that word up. That's just such a negative and nasty word to talk about, being bullied. But yeah, a lot of people do it. Sometimes the young folks, they need to do a mental reset because of the social media reset, because they're being bullied. You get on social media and you put a picture up and somebody says something negative about it, and you don't like it and everybody sees it. So I've seen it happen way more than my fair share. So And so that's what I just wanted to do today. I just wanted to kind of just come on the first episode and just talk about a reset. I think at some point in life we all gonna do resets, and I think they should be warranted. Um, just because you're doing a reset don't mean that something is wrong. Nothing has to be wrong for you to be a reset. Some things just have to be reset. Some things just have to be updated. It doesn't mean that it's broken or need to be replaced. It just need to be updated. You just need the newer version of it. And then on the other flip side of that, some things do need to be fixed. Some things do need to be replaced. Some things do need to be repaired. Um, and so there's different types of resets when we're talking about that. But think about why it is that you would want to do a reset and would it benefit you. I'm in the process of right now of doing a reset, and I can say right now that I'm feeling the best I felt in a while. I'm looking the best I've looked in a while. Um, I'm thinking the best I've thought in a while. And all this is because of reset. And it just popped in my mind one day to say, you know what, Rizzy? Let's do a reset. Let's write down what we need to reset, why we need to reset it, and what are we going to do to reset it. And I think one of the biggest things to do if you're going to do a reset is just be consistent with it. If you're going to go to the gym, go. You know, if you're going to say you're going to call somebody, talk to them, call them. If you say you're going to do it, do it. If you say you're going to pray, pray. You know, that way it keeps the resetting to a minimum. And then, we're talking about, the stoppages. Every time you stop, you're losing momentum. So, and sometimes, I know I said before, you don't have to start all over, but sometimes you do. Your reset is a start over, you know, because now the momentum that you lost, you got to get back. So now you got to spend more time, talent, and treasure trying to get everything back like it was. So that's what the first episode of the Hits podcast was today. Was just a reset, you know, just doing a reset. I think we all in life will do a reset at some point, and it's going to make us better. It's going to make us more efficient. It's going to make us more um, productive. It's going to make us think better. It's going to make us a better version of us. And that's really what we want. The best version of you is the best version of you after the reset. After a reset, you should be better. You should be going backwards when you should be going forward. So you have to look at yourself and say, why am I doing a reset? And once you figure out why you're doing the reset, go on and reset it. Okay, so that's what I wanted to do today. I wanted to come on and just give you guys a little bit of what I was thinking, and just putting something out in the air for right now. And I'm always going to end my podcast with a positive word. You know, like what's the word for the day? Okay, and the word for the day is be consistent. Be consistent. Whatever you're trying to do, be consistent with it. Okay, don't be a procrastinator. Be consistent. That's one of the things I had to work on. One of the reasons why I'm doing a reset because I haven't been consistent enough. So the word that we're going to end on today is be consistent. As always, Rizzy shies out and you got all of the hits.